Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're going to be tackling Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Oh, yeah. A great one.
I've heard so many good things about this book.
It's really practical.
And we love to do deep dives on books that are really practical and that people can use right away in their lives to make changes. And this one seems to fit the bill.
It really does.
So one of the things that really stood out to me was James Clear's personal story. Like, he was this promising young baseball player, and then he suffered this horrific injury in high school.
I remember reading about that. It was pretty bad.
Broken bones, seizures, like it was really serious.
Yeah.
And so, what's so interesting is how he didn't let the setback define him,
Yeah.
He used this recovery process as a way to kind of explore the power of these tiny habits. Think about it. He had to relearn how to walk, like basic things.
Had to start from scratch.
Totally from scratch. And that's where the idea kind of clicked for him, that these consistent small improvements,
Yeah.
even just 1% better every day, that can lead to huge changes.
Yeah, it's like this idea of tiny gains leading to something much bigger.
Yeah, it's like rebuilding your life one tiny brick at a time.
Exactly. And he uses this great example to illustrate this point, which is the British cycling team.
Oh, yeah, I remember that story from the book.
They were, pretty much the underdogs up until the coach Dave Brailsford. He introduced this revolutionary concept, I guess you could call it.
I'm going to need you to break this down for me because I remember reading it and I was like, okay, what exactly are we talking about here?
So it's called the aggregation of marginal gains.
Aggregation of marginal gains.
Okay. But basically what it means is he looked at every single aspect of cycling performance.
Okay.
From the bike itself to the rider's sleep schedules to like literally everything.
Wow.
And he tried to find a 1% improvement in each area.
So we're talking like really tiny things.
Tiny, tiny things like the most aerodynamic clothing, using sensors to monitor the athlete's performance, even teaching them the most effective hand washing techniques to prevent getting sick.
No way.
Yeah, like really, really small details
Wow.
that you wouldn't think would make much of a difference.
But I guess he was banking on the idea that these tiny improvements would stack on top of each other and create something much bigger.
Exactly. And the results were astounding.
Really?
Within a few years, British cycling went from being, basically a nobody to dominating the world stage, racking up Olympic gold medals, Tour de France victories.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So, okay,
All because of this idea of 1% improvements.
the power of tiny gains.
Yeah.
But how does this apply to forming good habits in our everyday lives?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Cleary Atkinson argues that we tend to get so caught up in setting goals
Oh, yeah, I'm guilty of that.
instead of focusing on the systems that will actually help us reach those goals.
Yeah, I love setting goals.
Yeah.
I'm not so good with the follow through.
Well, that's where the problem lies, right?
Yeah.
And he highlights a few key problems with focusing solely on goals.
Okay. Lay it on me.
Number one, everyone sets goals, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Winners and losers alike. What sets people apart isn't the goal itself,
Okay.
but the system they have in place to achieve it.
So two people might want to write a best-selling novel,
Right.
but the one who actually develops the writing habit is the one who's more likely to succeed.
Exactly.
Okay.
Second, achieving a goal only changes your life in that moment.
Ooh.
It's kind of like cleaning your house. It feels amazing until it gets messy again.
Oh, yeah.
So it's more about establishing sustainable systems that help you stay on top of things.
Okay, so systems over goals.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Third, constantly chasing goals can actually hinder happiness.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Tell me more.
You end up always focused on some future point, right? Rather than enjoying the process.
I have definitely fallen into that trap before.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when instead of just finding the joy in the journey.
Exactly. And lastly, goals can actually work against long-term progress.
How so?
Well, what happens when you reach a goal?
You celebrate.
We celebrate, right? But then what?
But then what? You can easily lose momentum if you haven't built a system to keep you moving forward.
So it's like you reach the top of the mountain and then you're like, okay, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
I've definitely felt that before.
So does this mean we should abandon goals altogether?
I don't know. Is that what he's saying?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's more about shifting the focus.
Got it.
Instead of obsessing over the finish line.
Yeah,
Pour your energy into building the daily systems that will get you there.
I like that.
He uses this analogy of a gardener.
Okay.
A gardener doesn't simply wish for a beautiful garden, right?
Wow.
They focus on the daily tasks
Yeah.
of watering,
Mm.
weeding, caring for the plants.
Yeah.
And over time, the beautiful garden emerges
I love that.
as a result of those consistent efforts.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So it's about the process, not just the outcome.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about those habits that aren't about achieving some external goal? Like,
Yeah.
what if it's about changing who you are as a person?
That brings us to the concept of identity-based habits.
Oh, yes, this is where it gets juicy. Tell me more.
This is where Clear's framework really shines. He argues that lasting change comes from changing your beliefs about yourself.
Okay.
It's not simply about doing the right things. It's about becoming the type of person who naturally does those things.
I love that.
He puts it this way: outcomes are about what you get. Processes are about what you do. Identity is about what you believe.
So instead of saying, I want to lose weight,
Yeah.
you might say, I am the type of person who prioritizes their health.
Exactly. And as you begin to live in alignment with that identity, your habits naturally shift to support it.
Interesting.
And he gives this great example of an entrepreneur named Brian Clark who had this lifelong nail-biting habit.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So when Clark decided he wanted to be the type of person who cared for his appearance,
Right.
he got a manicure.
And
Yeah.
guess what? He stopped biting his nails.
He stopped biting his nails because it no longer aligned with his new self-image.
Wow, that's crazy how sometimes even a small change can trigger a deeper internal shift.
Totally. And that brings us to one of the most insightful concepts in the book.
Hit me.
This idea of voting for your desired identity.
Voting for your identity. Okay. I'm intrigued.
So Cleary proposes that each time you perform a desired behavior, it's like casting a vote for the person you want to become.
Okay.
Every run is a vote for athlete. Each page written is a vote for writer. Over time, these votes accumulate.
Yeah.
And they begin to reshape your self-image.
So you're building a case for who you want to be one action at a time.
Exactly. The more evidence you gather, the stronger that belief becomes.
Okay, I like that.
But there's a catch.
Oh.
This works both ways.
Meaning,
Each time you indulge in a bad habit, you're also casting a vote,
no.
reinforcing the identity you're trying to move away from.
So if I hit snooze instead of getting up for my run,
Yeah.
I'm casting a vote for couch potato instead of athlete.
Exactly. But the good news is you don't have to be perfect.
Oh, thank goodness.
It's about consistently winning the majority of the votes over time.
Okay, I can get behind that.
And understanding the science behind how habits actually form in our brains is crucial to achieving this.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of the brain stuff. How do habits actually take root?
Well, Clear breaks down habit formation into a simple 4-stage loop.
Okay.
Cue, craving, response, and
It
reward.
sounds like a cycle.
It is a cycle.
It keeps repeating.
It keeps repeating itself.
Okay.
So let's imagine checking your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cue might be boredom or seeing your phone light up with a notification.
Okay.
This triggers a craving for stimulation or connection.
Yeah.
Your response is picking up your phone and scrolling.
Of course.
And the reward is that dopamine hit you get from seeing something interesting or getting likes on your posts.
Yeah, I can see that playing out in my life all the time.
Right. It's happening constantly.
But how can understanding this process help us build better habits?
That's where Clear's 4 laws of behavior change come in.
Oh, yes, I've heard about these. Tell me more.
They provide strategies to hack each stage of this habit loop.
I love life hacks.
To make good habits easier to adopt
Yeah.
and bad habits harder to indulge in.
Okay, let's break it down.
The first law is make it obvious.
Make it obvious. Okay.
It's about making the cues for your good habits more prominent and the cues for bad habits less visible.
So if I'm aiming for a healthier diet,
Yeah.
I should keep a bowl of fruit on the counter
Right.
and tuck that bag of chips out of sight.
Exactly. Out of sight, out of mind.
I like it.
And he recommends a few specific strategies for this,
Okay.
like using implementation intentions and habit stacking.
Implementation intentions and habit stacking, those sound kind of technical.
They sound fancy, but they're actually quite straightforward.
Okay.
An implementation intention is a pre-planned decision about when and where you'll perform a new habit.
Oh,
So instead of vaguely telling yourself, I'll meditate more,
right.
you'd be specific. I'll meditate for 5 minutes every morning after I make my coffee in the living room.
So you're taking the decision making out of the moment.
Exactly, making it automatic.
Okay. I like that.
And habit stacking is about linking a new habit to an existing one.
Okay.
For example, after I brush my teeth, I'll do 10 push-ups.
Oh, I like that.
You're piggybacking on an established routine
Mm-hmm.
to create a built-in trigger for the new behavior.
So it's like a chain reaction of positive actions.
Exactly. And by making these cues obvious, you significantly increase your chances of actually following through with the habit.
Okay, make it obvious.
Got it.
What about the craving stage of the habit loop?
Right.
How do we make good habits more appealing
Yeah.
and bad habits less tempting?
That's where the second law of behavior change comes in. Make it attractive.
Make it attractive. Okay.
This is where we tap into the power of dopamine, our brain's reward system.
Ooh, dopamine, tell me more.
So one effective strategy is temptation bundling,
Temptation bundling, now we're talking.
which involves pairing something you want to do
Yes.
with something you need to do. Remember that engineering student who hacked his stationary bike so that Netflix would only play when he was pedaling at a certain speed?
Oh, yeah. I love that story.
It's a classic,
So brilliant.
right? He made exercise way more attractive
Yeah.
by bundling it with entertainment.
He took something he wanted to do, watching Netflix, and something he needed to do,
Yeah.
exercise.
And he put them together.
Genius.
So you can apply this principle to all sorts of habits,
Like what?
like listening to your favorite podcast only while doing chores, or treating yourself to a fancy coffee after finishing a challenging work task.
Oh, yeah, I do that.
Right.
It's like you're tricking yourself into doing the things you know are good for you.
In a way, yes.
I like it.
He also emphasizes the importance of reframing your mindset
Okay.
to make habits more appealing.
Okay.
So instead of viewing them as chores,
Yeah,
see them as opportunities.
I like that.
For example, instead of thinking I have to go to the gym, think I get to move my body and improve my health.
It's all about the perspective.
It's all about finding the positive spin.
Okay. Make it attractive.
Make it attractive.
Yeah.
But even when we make a habit, obvious and attractive motivation can still be a hurdle.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Some days getting started just feels impossible.
Totally.
That's where the third law comes into play.
Okay.
Make it easy.
Make it easy. All right, I'm listening.
It's about reducing the friction associated with good habits
Okay.
and increasing the friction associated with bad ones.
So less friction for good habits,
Yes.
more friction for bad habits.
Exactly.
Got it.
One of the simplest yet most effective strategies is his 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule. Okay.
It's based on the idea that any habit can be broken down into a 2-minute version.
Okay.
So instead of psyching yourself out with the thought of a 30-minute workout,
Yeah.
just focus on putting on your workout clothes.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or instead of aiming for 5 pages of writing, just commit to writing 1 sentence.
So find the smallest possible step just to get started.
Exactly. The idea is to make that initial action so easy that you can't say no to it.
Okay.
And often, once you've taken that first step,
Yeah.
you'll find yourself doing more than you planned.
That is so true for me with working out.
Right.
Like once I'm at the gym,
Yeah.
I'm way more likely to finish my workout.
Exactly.
It's just getting there.
It's overcoming that initial hurdle.
That's the tough part.
That's the hardest part.
So, okay, 2-minute rule.
2-minute rule.
What else?
He also highlights the importance of optimizing your environment
Okay.
to make good habits easier. So this could involve laying out your workout clothes the night before,
Yeah, I do that.
or keeping a book on your bedside table to encourage reading before bed. It's all about removing potential obstacles
Right.
that might prevent you from following through.
So you're setting yourself up for success
Exactly.
by creating an environment that supports your goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even when we've made a habit obvious, attractive, and easy,
Yeah.
there's still a key element missing:
What's that?
satisfaction.
Ah, yes, the reward.
The reward at the end of the habit loop.
Right.
So that brings us to the fourth law of behavior change.
Lay it on me.
Make it satisfying.
Make it satisfying. Okay.
This is about ensuring your good habits are enjoyable and rewarding, so you're more likely to stick with them over time.
Okay, but how do you make something like eating vegetables or cleaning the house
Yeah.
actually feel satisfying?
Well, one strategy is to focus on the immediate rewards of the habit,
Okay.
even if the long-term benefits take time to appear.
Okay.
Remember how Wrigley's turned chewing gum into a global habit?
Chewing gum?
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't emphasize the potential dental benefits.
Right.
They focused on making the experience enjoyable
Right, by adding delicious flavor.
by adding delicious flavors.
Oh, okay.
So it's about making the process itself enjoyable.
I like that.
And this principle applies to all sorts of habits.
Give me an example.
You could light a scented candle while cleaning, or listen to upbeat music while cooking a healthy meal.
Oh, yeah, I do that.
Yeah, makes it more enjoyable.
I've definitely noticed that I'm more likely to stick with a workout routine if I actually like the type of exercise I'm doing.
Right.
Like if I'm having fun,
It shouldn't feel like a chore.
it shouldn't.
Exactly.
Okay, so make it fun.
Make it fun.
Make it enjoyable.
He also discusses the power of habit tracking
Oh, yeah.
to make progress visible and satisfying.
What does that look like?
You could mark an X on a calendar each day you complete your habit, or use an app to track your progress.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that. Even Jerry Seinfeld used this strategy.
He did.
He marked an X on his calendar every day. He wrote jokes.
That's right.
And he just tried to keep that chain going.
Never break the chain.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Okay, so this visual representation of your progress
Yeah.
can be really motivating.
It can be really motivating.
It's like proof that you're doing the thing.
It's a tangible reminder of your commitment,
Yeah.
and it helps you stay accountable.
I love how simple but effective that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so make it satisfying.
Make it satisfying.
But what about those inevitable slip-ups,
Yeah.
Like life throws curveballs.
Of course.
Motivation wanes.
It happens.
We all miss a day or two.
We're all human.
Yeah. Does he offer any advice for getting back on track?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He has this great rule: never miss twice.
Never miss twice.
So if you slip up one day, don't beat yourself up.
Okay.
Just get back on track as soon as possible.
Okay.
The key is to prevent a single slip up from derailing your progress.
That's reassuring because I think it's so easy to get discouraged when you fall off the wagon.
Yeah, but one missed day
Yeah,
doesn't undo all your previous effort.
that's a good point.
And he also recommends having an accountability partner
Oh, yeah.
to support you.
Like a friend or family member or...
Could be a friend, a family member, a coach.
Got it.
Anyone who can help you stay on track.
Yeah.
Sharing your goals and checking in regularly can provide a significant boost in motivation.
I've definitely found that I'm more likely to follow through when I know someone else is kind of counting on me.
Exactly.
Like they're invested in my success.
It's like having a personal cheerleader
Yeah.
in your corner.
Okay, so accountability is key.
Accountability is key.
This has been so fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
we've covered so much.
We've gone through a lot.
The 4 stages of the habit loop,
Yeah.
4 laws of behavior change,
Mhm.
some really practical strategies for making good habits stick.
Right.
But before we move on, I have a question.
Okay.
He touches on this idea that our genes might play a role
Yeah.
in our habits and behaviors. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he acknowledges that our genes can influence our predispositions and natural inclinations,
Okay.
but he's also clear that our genes don't dictate our destiny.
Okay, so nature versus nurture.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
We have a significant amount of control over our habits, regardless of our genetic makeup.
So even if someone has a natural predisposition
Right.
to certain habits,
Yeah.
like let's say organization or being outgoing,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean they're stuck with those tendencies forever.
No, not at all.
Okay.
He argues that understanding our genetic strengths and weaknesses
Yeah.
allows us to make more informed choices about the habits we cultivate.
Interesting.
So, for example, if you're a natural night owl,
Mm-hmm.
you might be more successful building a nighttime writing routine
Yeah.
than trying to force yourself into an early morning schedule.
So it's about working with your natural tendencies, not fighting against them.
Exactly.
Okay, like that.
So it's not about eliminating the need for hard work.
Right.
It just clarifies what we should be working hard on.
I see.
So even someone with natural athletic ability still needs to put in the hours to reach their full potential.
You can't just coast on your natural talent.
You can't coast. You got to put in the work.
I love that it means we have the ability to shape our own paths, even if our genes provide a starting point.
Exactly. And that brings us to a fundamental takeaway from Atomic Habits.
What's that?
It's not about achieving perfection.
Right.
It's about consistent incremental improvement over time.
So like Rome wasn't built in a day?
Exactly.
Right.
You got to put in the work day after day.
With steady effort, even the most ambitious goals are attainable.
Exactly. And that's what makes his framework so appealing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about drastic overhauls
Yeah.
or relying on willpower alone.
Right.
It's about making tiny changes
Yeah.
that compound over time to create remarkable results.
Small changes, big results. I love that.
That's the magic of Atomic Habits.
Ah.
It's fascinating how Clear emphasizes that these small improvements, these tiny gains, can have such a huge impact. It's like he's giving us permission to let go of the pressure to make these massive sweeping changes and just focus on those tiny 1% improvements.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, don't try to climb the mountain in one giant leap. Just focus on taking one step at a time, and eventually you'll reach the summit.
That's a great way to put it, and it makes the whole process of self-improvement feel much less daunting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about those small wins, those little victories that keep us motivated and moving forward. But I'm curious, is there a point where those small gains aren't enough anymore, where we hit a plateau and need to shake things up?
That's an excellent question, and it brings us to another crucial concept that Clear discusses in the book, the idea of flow state and how it connects to mastering difficult skills.
Ah, Yeah, flow state. I've heard that term before. It's that feeling of being completely absorbed in an activity, right, where time seems to fly by and you're completely in the zone.
Exactly. And Clear believes that achieving a flow state is essential for reaching peak performance in any field, whether it's sports, music, writing, or business.
So, how do we actually get into that flow state? Is there a secret formula?
Well, according to Clear, one key factor is working on tasks that are just the right level of challenging. He calls this the Goldilocks rule. Not too hard, not too easy, but just right.
That makes a lot of sense. If something is too easy, we get bored, but if it's too hard, we get frustrated and give up. It's about finding that sweet spot where we're fully engaged and motivated.
Precisely. And Clear points to the research of psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who actually coined the term flow state. Csikszentmihalyi found that to achieve flow, a task needs to be about 4% beyond your current abilities. It's about nudging yourself just outside your comfort zone, but not so far that you become overwhelmed.
So it's not about seeking comfort, it's about seeking that optimal level of challenge that keeps us engaged and growing.
Exactly. And this ties back to the idea of deliberate practice. As we become more skilled, we need to keep raising the bar, keep finding new ways to challenge ourselves, or we risk falling into the trap of complacency.
I see this happen all the time. People reach a certain level of proficiency and then just coast, never pushing themselves to reach their full potential.
And that's when boredom sets in, which, as Clear points out, can be a major obstacle to long-term progress.
It's like that saying, the greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. We need that feeling of challenge, that sense of novelty to stay motivated.
It's exactly. Clear suggests a few strategies to combat boredom and keep those habits engaging. One is to introduce variety into your routines. Instead of doing the same workout every day, switch things up, try different exercises, vary the intensity and duration if you're a writer, experiment with different genres or writing styles.
Keep things fresh and exciting. I definitely find I'm more likely to stick with a workout routine if it doesn't feel monotonous.
Right. Clear also emphasizes the importance of setting stretch goals. Goals that are slightly outside your current reach, but still feel attainable. Having something to strive for can help you stay motivated and push yourself to new heights.
I like the concept of stretch goals. It's about aiming high while being realistic about what you can achieve.
Precisely. And that brings us to another important concept, the importance of reflection and review.
Ah, yes. It's not enough to just blindly follow a routine. We need to step back and assess how we're doing right.
Exactly. Clear recommends setting aside time for regular reflection, whether it's weekly, monthly, or annually. Use this time to review your habits, assess what's working, and make adjustments as needed.
It's like having a feedback loop for our habits. We're constantly monitoring our progress and making course corrections to stay on track.
Precisely. And Clear suggests some helpful prompts for this reflection process. He recommends asking yourself questions like, what went well this year? What didn't go so well? And what did I learn?
Those are great questions. They really make you honestly assess your progress and identify areas for growth.
Right, and Clear stresses the importance of reviewing not just your actions, but also your mindset and beliefs. Are your current beliefs supporting your desired habits, or are they holding you back?
That's a powerful question. Sometimes our thoughts and beliefs are our biggest obstacles. We sabotage ourselves with negative self-talk or limiting beliefs about what we can achieve.
Exactly. Clear argues that by becoming aware of these limiting beliefs, we can begin to challenge and reframe them. It's about shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, believing that our abilities aren't fixed but can be developed and expanded through effort and learning.
I love that it's about embracing the journey of continuous improvement and viewing every challenge as a chance to grow.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to one of the core themes of Atomic Habits. Small changes consistently applied can lead to remarkable results. It's not about overnight transformations. It's about those tiny gains accumulating over time.
I think that's a great message. It's encouraging to know we don't need drastic changes to see big results. It's about making small, consistent improvements each day and trusting that over time they'll compound into something amazing.
Absolutely. And one final thought for our listeners, remember that building better habits is a lifelong journey, not a destination. It's about embracing the process, experimenting with different strategies, and figuring out what works best for you.
And don't be afraid to ask for help along the way, whether it's from a friend, family member, coach, or even a community of like-minded people. A support system can make all the difference.
Couldn't agree more. Now, there's another fascinating aspect of Atomic Habits we haven't explored yet, the idea of habit contracts and how they can leverage the power of accountability.
Ooh, habit contracts. That sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Well, Clear takes inspiration from a somewhat surprising source, Seatbelt laws. Remember back in the 1980s how very few people wore seatbelts? Then seatbelt laws came into effect and usage skyrocketed.
That's right. A simple policy change had a huge impact on people's behavior.
Exactly. And Clear suggests we can apply this same principle to our own habits by creating what he calls habit contracts.
So it's like making a formal agreement with ourselves, outlining the habit we want to develop and the consequences of not following through.
Precisely. And the key to making these contracts effective is involving an accountability partner, someone who will hold you to your commitments and provide support and encouragement along the way.
I see how that could be powerful. It's like having a personal coach invested in your success.
Exactly. Claire shares examples of habit contracts in the book. One involves an entrepreneur named Brian Harris who wanted to improve his fitness and nutrition. He created a contract with his wife and personal trainer, outlining his daily goals and the financial consequences of not meeting them.
Ooh, financial consequences. That raises the stakes. Did it work?
Absolutely. Harris reached all his fitness goals within 3 months. Clear points out that this strategy isn't just about punishment, it's about making the cost of inaction more immediate and tangible.
That makes sense. We're often more motivated to avoid a loss than to achieve a gain. Creating a system where we experience an immediate consequence for not sticking to our habits increases our chances of staying on track.
Precisely. And what's great about habit contracts is that you can tailor them to any habit and personality. You can set up a system where you donate to a cause you don't support if you miss a workout, or maybe you agree to do a chore you hate if you don't meet your writing goal for the day.
I love how creative you can get with these contracts. It's about figuring out what works best for you, leveraging your unique motivations and what you want to avoid.
Exactly. Clear also emphasizes the importance of making the contract public, share it with a friend, post it on social media, or even put it up on your fridge.
So it's about increasing accountability by making those commitments known to others.
Precisely when we know others are aware of our goals, we're more likely to follow through. It's like having a built-in support system and a gentle nudge to stay on course.
This is fascinating. I'm definitely going to incorporate habit contracts into my own life.
Me too. It's a simple yet powerful way to harness accountability and make those good habits stick.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into atomic habits, from the 4 stages of the habit loop to the 4 laws of behavior change, from flow state to habit contracts. Clear has given us a wealth of knowledge and strategies for making positive changes.
It's a book that can truly transform the way we approach self-improvement and personal growth.
But before we move on, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on something. Clear brings up the potential downside to creating good habits.
That's a great point. Clear acknowledges that while good habits are crucial for success and well-being, they can lead to complacency if we're not careful.
So we can become so good at something that we stop paying attention and our performance starts to slip.
Exactly. Clear calls this automaticity, and it often happens with activities that become highly routinized, like brushing our teeth or driving.
That makes sense. We can go on autopilot and not realize we're making small mistakes or that our technique could be improved.
Precisely. And Clear highlights this as a potential obstacle to reaching those elite levels of performance. To truly master a skill we need to maintain conscious awareness and continually seek ways to refine and improve.
So it's not enough to just develop a good habit. We also need to keep it fresh and challenging.
Exactly. Claire suggests a few strategies to combat automaticity. One is to regularly review our habits and pinpoint areas where we can improve, even if it's just a 1% gain.
It's like that marginal gains approach we discussed earlier. Even small improvements applied consistently make a big difference over time.
Right. Claire also recommends practicing mindfulness, paying attention to the present moment without judgment. This helps us stay aware of our actions and avoid slipping into autopilot.
Mindfulness is such a powerful practice. It's about bringing your full attention to whatever you're doing, whether eating, talking, or even brushing your teeth.
Exactly. By cultivating mindfulness, we prevent ourselves from becoming slaves to our habits and instead use them as tools for growth and self-improvement.
This conversation has been so insightful. I have a much deeper understanding of the nuances of habit formation and how important it is to stay conscious and adaptable even as our habits become automatic.
Me too. And for those interested in exploring this further, Clear dedicates an entire chapter in Atomic Habits to this downside of good habits and strategies for overcoming complacency.
Great tip. We'll be sure to include a link to that chapter in the show notes.
Definitely. Now, one final concept I think is relevant to our conversation is something Clear touches on throughout the book, the importance of understanding how our emotions drive our behavior.
Yes, the role of emotions in habit formation. That's something we haven't really delved into yet.
Right. Clear emphasizes that emotions are at the heart of every habit. We don't just act out of logic, we act based on how we feel.
So it's not enough to simply know what we should be doing. We also need to feel motivated and inspired to actually do it.
Exactly. Clear highlights the research of neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, who found that people with damage to the emotional centers of their brains struggle to make decisions, even when they can logically list the pros and cons.
That's fascinating. It shows just how crucial emotions are to our decision-making processes.
Right, and Clear argues that we can use this understanding to make our good habits more appealing and our bad habits less tempting. It's about connecting our desired habits to positive emotions and our undesired habits to negative ones.
So instead of just focusing on the logical reasons for wanting to exercise, I might try to find ways to make the experience itself more enjoyable.
This connects back to the second law of behavior change. Make it attractive. We're more likely to repeat something when it feels good.
It's like the saying, what gets rewarded gets repeated. We need to find ways to make our good habits rewarding both intrinsically and extrinsically.
Precisely. And Clear offers a few strategies for achieving this one, is to use what he calls reinforcement, which is essentially any reward that makes you more likely to repeat a behavior.
This could be as simple as giving yourself a pat on the back for completing a task or having a piece of chocolate after a workout.
Exactly. Clear also stresses the importance of celebrating our wins, no matter how small. Acknowledging and appreciating our progress helps us stay motivated and build positive associations with our habits.
I love that it's about making the entire journey enjoyable, not just focusing on the end goal.
Precisely, this ties back to the concept of identity-based habits. When our habits are linked to a positive self-image, they become more than just tasks on a list. They become expressions of who we are.
That's such a powerful way of looking at it. It's about building an identity that supports those desired behaviors.
Exactly. And Clear believes this is one of the most effective ways to make habits stick. When you see yourself as the kind of person who embodies those habits, they become easier to maintain over time.
This deep dive into the emotional side of habit formation has been so eye-opening. It's clear that our feelings play a much bigger role than we often realize.
Absolutely. And by understanding the science behind how our emotions drive our behavior, we can develop better strategies for creating lasting change.
And as always, it's about finding what works best for you and being willing to experiment.
Right. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to habit formation.
But with a little self-awareness, a dash of creativity, and a whole lot of consistency, we can all achieve incredible things.
Absolutely. And that's a great point to transition to the final part of our deep dive. Let's explore how Clear suggests we weave these individual habits into the larger tapestry of a fulfilling life.
So we've been talking about all these strategies for building better habits, and I keep thinking about how they all fit together.
Yeah.
It's like we've been focusing on these individual puzzle pieces, but I'm curious, how do they all come together to create this bigger picture of a fulfilling life?
That's a great point. It's not just about adding habit after habit. It's about how they work together to support your well-being and create a life that feels aligned with who you are and what you want to achieve.
So it's like building a house.
Exactly.
You need the foundation, the walls, the roof, everything working together to create a strong, functional structure.
And Clear provides some really insightful guidance on what he calls habit architecture.
Habit architecture. Okay.
And one of the key principles he emphasizes is aligning your habits with your values.
Values, they make so much sense because if my habits are pulling me in all these different directions, it's going to create internal conflict and make it harder to feel truly happy.
Precisely. So he suggests taking the time to define your core values, like what truly matters to you in life. What kind of person do you aspire to be?
Right.
Once you have a clear grasp of your values, you can start evaluating whether your current habits are supporting them or working against them.
I'm already seeing areas where I need to make some changes, like I value spending quality time with loved ones.
Yeah. But I also have this habit of getting sucked into work late into the evening.
Yeah.
Those two habits are definitely not in alignment.
That's a perfect example. And once you've identified those misalignments, you can use the 4 laws of behavior change to make adjustments. So maybe you could create a new habit of setting a firm stop time for work each day, or a scheduled, dedicated time for connecting with your family.
Yeah, I love that it's about making conscious choices that reflect my priorities.
Exactly. Another important element of habit architecture is finding work that is both challenging and meaningful.
Oh, yeah.
Clear believes that when we're engaged in work that aligns with our interests and talents and that contributes to something bigger than ourselves, it can be a huge source of satisfaction and well-being.
That resonates with me for sure. Like when I'm working on a project that I'm passionate about
Yeah.
and that I believe is making a difference. I feel so much more energized and fulfilled. But how do you find that kind of work if you're not already doing it? Well, that's where Clear's Goldilocks rule comes in. Again,
Hmm.
remember, it's about finding that sweet spot where the challenge of the work is just slightly beyond your current abilities, so it pushes you to grow and learn
Yeah.
without becoming overwhelmed. He suggests experimenting with different tasks or projects within your current role, or looking for opportunities to expand your skills and knowledge through courses or workshops.
So it's about taking initiative and seeking out those challenges that will both stretch my abilities and light my fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the impact of your social environment.
Oh, yeah.
Clear emphasizes that the people we surround ourselves with have a huge influence on our habits and behaviors.
It's so true. Like, if all my friends are couch potatoes, it's going to be a lot harder for me to stick to my workout routine.
Exactly. So be mindful of who you spend your time with. Seek out relationships with people who inspire you, support your goals, and share your values.
It's about creating that positive feedback loop where my good habits and positive relationships kind of reinforce each other.
Precisely. And finally, Clear highlights the importance of cultivating gratitude as a fundamental habit for a fulfilling life.
Gratitude. I love that it's so easy to get caught up in the daily grind and forget to appreciate all the good things we have.
It really is. But even taking a few moments each day to reflect on what you're grateful for can have a profound impact on your mood, your relationships, and your overall sense of well-being.
So it's not just about achieving goals and building a successful life. It's also about fostering a mindset of gratitude and appreciating what we already have.
Exactly. He suggests building a simple habit of writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day.
Hmm.
It's a small action, but it can have a significant impact over time.
I'm definitely going to try that. This whole conversation has been so inspiring. I feel like I have a whole new blueprint for building not just a successful life, but a truly meaningful and fulfilling one.
Me too. And that's what makes Atomic Habits such a powerful and insightful book. It's not just about changing your behaviors, it's about changing your mindset and creating a life that aligns with your values, passions, and deepest aspirations.
This has been an incredible deep dive into atomic habits. We've covered so much,
We have.
and I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore in the book, but hopefully this has given you some valuable insights and practical strategies
Definitely.
to get started.
And remember, it's not about perfection.
No.
It's about progress. Just take one small step today towards creating the life you envision.
Hmm.
And trust that with consistent effort, you can achieve anything you set your mind to.
Absolutely. And one final thought to leave you with, as you embark on this journey of building better habits,
Yeah.
remember that you are the architect of your own life. You have the power to design a life that is both successful and fulfilling one small habit at a time.
That's a beautiful way to end our deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of atomic habits.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it inspiring and empowering. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to become the best versions of yourselves.